Welcome back to Thought Journal Thursday. It has been a while, but this is the first video of 2020. Hopefully you will be seeing one once a month. And for today's question, we are questioning whether we can control if we are optimists or pessimists. The reason why I chose this question today is because in university and in life in general, we go through times where we feel like we can't control that, and I have an opinion, and I wanted to hear yours, and I wanted to formulate something that makes sense. So here's my first impression. My initial thoughts were that yes, we can control whether we are optimistic or pessimistic, but it's not something that is necessarily easy. It's something that you have to kind of think about. So like I usually do, I took it upon myself to Google the definitions of the two words at hand. So what is an optimist? An optimist is someone that is hopeful and confident about the future. What is a pessimist? Well, a pessimist is someone that tends to believe that the worst is going to happen, or tends to see the worst aspect of things. So the definitions that we looked at are quite vague, but that's a good thing because it allows us to explore the question in so many different ways. So the first way that I'm going to choose to explore this question is through a philosophic lens. In philosophy, optimism is this doctrine that states that we live in the best of all possible worlds. And pessimism is this doctrine that kind of states that we live in the worst world where evil always prevails over good. So if that's the case, then these are two extremes that can't coexist together. So if you're an optimist who believes that you're in the best of all possible worlds, you can't possibly be a pessimist, or you can't possibly think like a pessimist and think you're in the worst world possible. So if you're thinking about it in a philosophic way, you can't really control whether you're optimistic or pessimistic because both of those things can't coexist. So some of the comments that I got from you guys that were arguing about how we can't choose whether we are optimistic or pessimistic had to do a lot with this idea of our instinctual thought. So what are our first instincts to act when it comes to situations? Are we pessimistic or optimistic? And that in essence determines whether we are optimists or pessimists. Now, I honestly see why people would think that, but at the same time, I have a question. Now, if that's the case, I don't think we all always react depending on our instinctual feelings. Like sometimes we might have a gut feeling about something, but we'll go with another thing because logically after thinking about it, we feel like it's not the right thing to do. So in that case, I don't think that it's fair to say that our instinctual thought is what determines our optimism or pessimism. I think we have more control over it. Related to instincts, another thing that came up a lot was this idea of situational thinking. So how sometimes that we can bounce between being optimistic or pessimistic depending on a certain situation. So let me give you an example. So for example, if someone passes away, you're going to grieve and feel sad and think about life and think about how short life is and have this pessimistic trail of thought, which is a natural feeling, which is a situational feeling as well. On the other hand, if you get like a good grade or you get a promotion, your first instinct is to your first instinct toward that situation is to be happy and to think about the future and how great it could be after you achieved what you achieved. So in this situation, I think it's important to understand because it makes me think about how we actually have the capability to feel optimistic and pessimistic. And I think that that's the first step to recognizing that we have some sort of control over it. But just because you are reacting to things in a certain way in certain situations, I don't think that means that's a sustained feeling. Like you might feel sad or feel pessimistic or feel optimistic at a certain point or like at a certain situation, but that doesn't mean that that's how you're going to feel for the long run. That's where control comes in. I don't think that situational reactions or instinctual feelings have anything to do with our control over optimism or pessimism, but I think the two variables that are required for being able to control these things are time and choice. Now, I can't think of any better way to show you this than with a game. So the human experience starts where you choose a character, either the optimist who has more magic points or the pessimist who has more strength points. Let's say you go for the pessimist. In the game, you're going to go through life, let time pass by, and you're going to complete quests that will let you choose perks that will improve your skill points. The pessimist has more strength to begin with, so you're trying to improve your magic points. So you go through the first quest, you win, you are victorious, and you get to complete the quest, which will allow you to choose a perk. So you either have the Sorcerer's Wand or the Warrior's Knack, but since you're short on magic, you're going for the Sorcerer's Wand. So now you've improved your magic. You're getting closer to what an optimist is like. You continue on, time passes by, you experience another thing, you are victorious again, you complete the quest, and you still have a choice to choose between perks. And you still want to be as good as an optimist, so you're going to go for the Spellcaster's Hand. You get 7 magic points, so now you're left with more magic points than an optimist. Now you possess powers of an optimist and a pessimist. In no way am I saying that this is something that is easy and is something that you will perfect with a snap of a finger. And in no way am I saying as well that you have to be one or the other. You have to understand that there are certain situations that you have to know when to use strategic optimism or to use defensive pessimism. Because sometimes it'll make your life more efficient and more productive. Always try and stay far away from extremes, like being too optimistic where you're naive, or unrealistic, or being too pessimistic and reaching the point where you're unproductive and you have a low self-esteem. The last thing that I want to talk about is this persistent theme in your comments and suggestions, which was the theme of masking. This idea of hiding your true feelings. So if you're someone that's a pessimist, you're acting like an optimist around others because you don't want to spread your pessimism. Now that being said, I have a thought. If you're someone that is pessimistic and you recognize all the faults in that and you don't want to spread that across the room and you act like an optimist over and over and over again, what sets you apart from a regular optimist? I think that that's a way for us to dip into both, to dip into being an optimist and to dip into being a pessimist. It's some sort of control that's not always guaranteed, but I think that this masking thing can sometimes backfire and can sometimes lead you to question what you actually feel over and over again. So I don't think that it's something that's completely healthy, but I do think that it's, if used correctly, can be a way that we learn how to control. So my final take is this. I think that we can choose whether we are optimistic or pessimistic, but it's not something that is easy, and it is something that is circumstantial of how much time that we've gone through and the choices that we've made, both good and bad, and what we've received from those experiences. I don't think it's a terrible thing to be a pessimist, and I don't think it's a terrible thing to be an optimist, but I do think it is essential to keep an open mind about having the choice to choose between the two to make your situation more efficient and more productive. I honestly think everything that is difficult to do in life is the most rewarding, and this is just something that we have to learn over time. I, for those who want to know, consider myself an optimist. I really want to know what you guys consider yourselves to be. I am so passionate about this topic. I talk about it like all the time. Let me know in the comments what you want to see next month for Thought Journal Thursday. But as for now, that is an explored thought for today.